So we were talking about doing something about like digital and the relation between digital and paint.
Yeah. This time you're painting to trying to put one painting into like two concepts, like deep concept, like a digital, like flat, like dot system, and also the other like smooth, like everything, like painting system inside, and it's the like so many layers inside, like it's like a dreamy, and also looks like a really close, but still like distance for inside. So
yeah,
so there is a painting meaning, I think. Yeah, there is a magical painting meaning. So that's why people like trying to reproduce the other like material.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can notice in the process what's the digital meaning, what is the like painting stuff meaning, right?
I think you're bringing up Seungjin a lot of really interesting ideas, and I'd like to like dig down to like what it is that we're connecting, it's like between the analog and the digital within paint as a medium, which might be the most analog of medium.
Right? It pretty much is. I've been thinking about this quite a bit. I was at a panel discussion yesterday about artificial intelligence, and I mean, it wasn't a great panel discussion, but one thing which got me thinking about was, the individual art object and how that's sort of, for the meantime, safe from being, repeatedly generated and regenerated by these AI models, because it has to be instantiated as a singular physical object.
Right.
For now. I mean, who knows what the technology is going to bring, but the AI can make an image which has the appearance of a painting, but it cannot make a painting.
Well,
as
printed.
But then it's not a painting; it's a print.
How about connect to computer to like like cyborg hand machine and brush, and it's not a painting.
Right.
That's what they have to do.
Yeah, that would be, and that would be quite a bit of
and mix paint. Right, I think the mixing, right, there's so many fine movements in a way.
Yeah,
you're right, like the actual painting. And you're right, I'm talking about prints, reproductions.
Yeah.
Super perfect printed reproductions on canvas, cheap clay, shiny, whatever.
Yeah, like what's his name? That painter, really kitschy, Thomas Kincaid. A lot of his paintings were actually G-clay prints that he'd throw a couple brush strokes on there and mark up the price because he had touched it with his paint.
Or matte medium even, just to give it a little texture. So I think a lot of people actually are very satisfied by AI.
I think you're right.
It's like one of these things where it's the median. AI gets the middle perfectly. The Thomas Kincaid.
Oh yeah.
Like Kincaid, and like that already feels like AI generated.
It really does. And I have a friend who's his whole art project is sort of rehashing these very kitschy art objects, and he has been working with AI and Kincaid, and using Kincaid in various digital processes. Like he has this one thing where he made a Excel spreadsheet that can basically rearrange the colors on the spreadsheet to basically reproduce Kincaid paintings.
That's cool. In a giant grid?
Yeah, some giant Excel grid, yeah.
Do you know how many cells large it is?
I didn't ask him. I'm guessing it's pretty big.
Yeah, thousands probably, right? You can
get a good resolution on it.
Yeah, picture, is only 4,000 pixels wide. Right?
Yeah.
How many alphabets is that? So that's kitschy, right? I mean, that's like one of those things where you could imagine people who are satisfied by that. You type in a couple things in an AI prompt. That makes something pretty.
And the AI
good.
At least the ones that I've used, like midjourney and maybe DALL-E to a lesser extent, and Stable Diffusion, have that kind of weird dreaminess to them.
Yeah.
Like it's not really surreal, but it's not really real. It has that kind of weird half-light that you get in kind of a dream state.
Yeah.
Where it's not really light and it's not really dark. It's just sort of this weird medium space.
Yeah.
I think this comes back to what you're getting at with, the AI is the median. It's the common denominator.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's that's part of its way of understanding not understanding at all. But that's part of the program of associative prediction, right? Like
It's basically a
it always brings you to the middle.
highly complex Markov chain.
Right. It's like always choice
Yeah.
will bring you to this.
Law of average. It's gonna end up somewhere in the middle at some point.
Yeah.
You know.
So
It's funny because I was just talking to someone earlier today about this project I did a number of years ago called Miku Forever, which is, I don't know if I've ever shown this to you. It's the infinitely generative Hatsune Miku pop song that rewrites itself every 2 minutes.
it's audio.
It's audio and video.
Okay.
Well, the audio was recorded, isn't done in real time. It was all basically the lyrics were written in Python using NLTK
Cool.
and Markov chains to basically make new song lyrics out of this pastiche of previous Miku songs. I basically took had this database of every song Miku had ever sung, all the lyrics,
Right.
and basically ran Markov chains through it, and ran that through NLTK to basically give it the poetic meter and rhythm. And that was the output. I fed the output through Vocaloid software to have Miku sing it, and then those individual clips are strung together in Unity using C#.
Uh-huh.
A lot of stuff, a lot of preparation, all this stuff sort of going on behind the scenes with it. And I got thinking about this earlier today. Would AI make it possible to sort of redo this and have the entire thing be real time?
Have you ever feel about the really deep nihilism about the painting things or like human like animal things? I mean, like sometimes I'm studying about new technology and AI, and also you just talking about the Mikus and another thing. Is I really love that series work. Is when I first time see it's really interesting, and also I feel really scary about that work because it's like kind of like future humanism really heresy like generation. Like it's human creativity is gonna be lose that AI eternal system is mean. So like it's really hell and dark maybe future something creative society. I can imagine. So. But I really love that work. So
Yeah, I think you're sort of getting at something that there is an ominousness to the Miku piece that it can generate a practically infinite number of songs. I forget. I calculated the exact number of songs it can make. It's like some ridiculous number with like 30-something zeros.
Right.
And that was sort of on the low end.
To all of it.
Yeah.
Entire lifetime.
But at the same time, they all sort of sound the same. It's there's not really much that distinguishes one from the other. And it's sort of like I forget what film it was, but it's like this film that's set in a dystopian future, and all restaurants are Taco Bell. It's like all the music sounds the same, all the art looks the same, and that's where I feel I'm sort of afraid that that's sort of where we're going with a lot of this AI. Is that we're sort of entering this sort of hyper-flat era where there is just so much output, it all sort of runs together and flattens out into one, sort of two-dimensional plane of kitsch.
Yeah.
I have maybe some like really sympathy about your painting and my also painting jobs like recently I'm doing. But maybe we both trying to explain the really like between process about the digital and analog process. I think so. Like for example, like the process about the maybe computer thinking like brain system is maybe if computer is human and when they try to make new thing, they doing programming thing, right, in brain system, their processing. Like maybe me and Roman trying to use like other like material like painting or other stuff, doing process is trying to understand what computer thinking inside the programming. Maybe so, because before the computer like invented in the human history is like art thing or every creative thing is people trying to make just like new idea from the human imagination, right? But like after like AI and super high or like algorithm system is like appear right now, like I feel I already give up in some kind of way my imagination and my musing, because already maybe some other people already do in internet or other, you know, like computer system already making. Maybe in my future works they already making. So that's why I just give up my new idea about creation. So that's why maybe I can see what is computer thinking and what is the, you know, like humanism and like really super high something like God power looking, like looks like a digital hyper, like high speed algorithm like between.
Interesting point. One thing which I've actually been working on writing about recently is this idea of, you know, the AI as being this machine that can only sort of rearrange existing elements,
Yeah.
whereas the human imagination has, you know, this sort of infinite capacity for invention. And I would challenge that second point, that, you know, we're sort of doing the same processes, except one is doing it far faster than us. That the imagination is itself a type of pastiche. And you know, Walter Benjamin wrote about that. He was, you know, writing about the tragic drama of the German Baroque, and there's a section in his book about that where he sort of likens the Baroque to a vast field of classical ruins. And the writers of the Baroque were sort of taking little fragments of the classical and reassembling them into the Baroque lyrics. And it was not necessarily a process of invention, but more one of rearrangement, to the point of, you know, finally heaping together all these little bits and bits until, you know, and he calls it, in the unremitting expectation of a miracle, some new, you know, more cohesive work sort of congeals out of these classical fragments.
And that's not the basis of postmodernism?
Exactly, it was.
Resample and
Maybe the postmodern is, in a sense, Baroque in that particular manner of, you know, creating itself through these fragmented materials.
Yeah. Right, and he's writing at a very specific time of post-war, right?
Yeah, this was pre-war, I think, was
First World War.
yeah, post First World War. I think he started writing it around 1920.
He didn't
This
survive
was
the second. So.
no, he did not make. He didn't make the second post Second World War, unfortunately.
But I think that mindset of post World War I Europe and the sort of shattering of the past and history and values is still something that resonates right now, culturally and visually, in this moment of digital shattering of, you know, the cultural norms and past and, you know, practices, you know, pre-digital,
Yes.
pre-internet, whatever the AI, you know, next network computational phenomenon is. But I do feel like, you know, the revolutions you talk about, like, I think are happening so quickly now. You know, that our creative minds aren't yet. There's some. I'm not going to misquote somebody. I'm not going to say who it is. But there's somebody who said something like, "The human spirit travels at quite slow speed." You know, and this is like during the age of the locomotive. So like, if you get on a steam locomotive, you know, you got to wait a while for your spirit to catch up. You know, and I feel like our mental spirits are not catching up right now with this sort of computational speed.
And the speed keeps on accelerating.
Yeah, and it feels like time's speeding up on a daily basis.
It does.
Like perceptually, to me. And I think that's part of it, is this sort of like digital onslaught of the changing perception that we have through the mediation of this. And how do we then interpret the world as artists? Fragmented, often, right? I think it's a natural way. Because that's how we experience it so much these days, in this postmodern, you know, reconstruction, if you will, of the Baroque period, right? It's beautiful, beautiful. You know, the small screen, the maybe even like smaller soon that'll be in front of our eyes. That,
Google Glass, if that ever
or whatever, the Apple Glass, or, you know, Meta Glass, or whoever's gonna put our, who's the band? LED sound system helmets on everybody. You know,
or VR headsets, you know, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And VR backgrounds, right? I mean, I was watching the Giro d'Italia is a race, like the Tour de France, right? There's three big races. One's in
in cycling?
Italy, cycling, yeah. Spain and France. They have the 3-week races. Right now it's the Italian one. The commentators, I think, are in a tiny trailer somewhere. Right? There's 3 people sitting on stools, and they're kind of close together, and there's a green screen behind them. And what they put onto that is this, space that has a giant bike shop on one side and a giant set of windows, glass windows out of the Italian countryside. And it's, in my mind, kind of normalizing this sense of, virtual spaces that we want to occupy being valuable. And sort of this is a new sort of place that we're getting pushed into, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about it as a fictional thing, Ready Player One, or there's all these other
Even though as far back as Neuromancer.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, many years ago, right? We've been talking about it, and we're still talking about it. It hasn't arrived yet, but it's getting closer and closer. And I feel like there's going to be a generation that doesn't remember before it. And that's going to be the flagship, the real change.
That's going to be interesting to see how,
and the art that's going to get produced from that. So I do think this idea of fragmentation, and our memory being maybe fragmented by our digital interactions, because the speed of that is too fast. Like we're trying to listen to the analog of a modem or something all the time. Visually, it's like, oh, I got a flash of this, right? You blink your eyes a couple times.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a human modemness that we're sort of trying to. You're talking about like how does a computer think? It's like how we're getting it through these flashes. It's a different frequency, that we can't hear. We can't perceive it as whole. We only get these little moments that.
Yeah, it is very much sort of trying to find one's way to the overload of information.
Totally.
I know tomorrow I'm going on an art fair binge, and should be interesting, but it's going to be a lot to see and a lot to try to take in, and you have to sort of have to be selective with what you pay attention to, because there's just so much out there you can't see everything.
So when you go to an art fair, do you walk at a set speed and keep going? Or do you pause and then smooth and then pause?
If it's something I find interesting, I will definitely pause to engage with it, but generally I try to keep a pretty good pace. Quite a bit of the stuff is, not of interest to me.
Right, no, it's all personal interest, right? What you're interested in might not be what somebody else is. So I do think, though, that walking through a giant museum or an art fair, right, of like that amount of stimulation, visual, audio, sensory in a way, is still at the human speed. You're in control of how fast you're walking.
Yeah, control your own pace.
Right, you're not on a jet ski that's programmed by somebody else, or something, with all the things shooting past. You're like, what was that? Can I scroll back? Kind of thing. So I think it's an interesting, like, human scale version, if you will, of like, the fair, the marketplace was like that is our maximum perceptive capacity. Actually.
Naturally. I'm going to be maxing mine out tomorrow, I think.
Go for it, right? You gotta. Yeah, I think it's actually one of the things where, as an artist, right, you sort of have a capacity that might be different in a way, because everything you see is potential fodder, potential tool, potential
fragment.
Right, exactly. And so, I think as you go around consuming it in a different way, sort of mentally, visually, right? It's not like, ooh, how much is it? Should I buy it? It's more about like, what are the ideas? How many ideas, how many things am I seeing that I could then, place into these, sort of rococo fragments, right? Making our idea space is a great thing, and I think you might find that there's going to be a lot of people that are interested in more and more people are going to be going to in-person things as the digital is more and more sort of pervasive and pushed on us, because it's the antidote in a way. Physical, analog, paint,
Yes.
you know, as opposed to digital screen, you know.
Yeah, there's that distance between the viewer and the actual object.
Yeah. Right, there's no mediation between me and this,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, the object itself is something that has a, and here we're talking about Walter Benjamin again, right?
Yes.
This sort of unique presence in time,
The aura.
right? That sense of I can have a personal relationship with it because of that aura.
Mm-hmm.
I think isn't there with digital, and we're left depressed and anxious because of that.
Mhm.
With our interaction, there's a dissatisfaction inherent in looking at things on screen.
Yes. At the same time, though, I think Benjamin would say that the valorizing the aura of the individual work of art is sort of the first step on a slippery slope towards fascist thought.
Sure, because then it's empowered, and could use it as a tool of war, right? Here's my iconography you must worship. But, you know, I think he didn't, and he does like quote like Valerie, who like wrote like, you know, in the future humanity will have images available to them that, you know,
Mhm.
with no more than a wave of their hand or whatever, you know, like what, this is written in 1930 or, you know, something like that. You know, I think they were also feeling an attraction to the iconography still and trying to justify this new media, the new being meaningful in a
Mhm.
way, and say modernity is better than the past, right? And things
Yes.
were really bad back then, and people painted, and now look, we have progress. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, we can't, you know, the photographic image, the reproducible image is not weaponizable in the same way. But they were wrong, unfortunately. You
Well,
know,
yeah, I mean, that's
generation
sort of,
later,
I
you
think
know.
where Benjamin breaks down, is that we don't really have this sort of progressive trajectory to history anymore.
Yeah, right, and then he lived in that one moment where you're like, okay,
Yeah.
science is gonna cure everything. You know,
Yeah,
but
we
he
don't
didn't-
really have that hope anymore.
He
It's
never
dead.
saw the atomic bomb.
No.
Right,
Really,
he
yeah.
died in whatever, 43,
I think it was 39 or 40.
Sure, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the Nazis were going to capture him, and he took some cyanide before they were able to get him.
Is it cyanide? I
think it was-
heard he was stuck at a
He was stuck at a border
border
crossing.
crossing that then opened up right after he shot.
I know.
Something
Or was
kind
it-
of like that.
Yeah, something very tragic.
Yeah, super tragic. So, I mean, it's interesting to think, but just to think about that thinker these days in relation to changes,
Mhm.
you know, that are going on between analog and digital.
Yeah, I wrote a piece a number of months ago that sort of used Benjamin's mechanical reproduction and sort of looked at AI through that very particular lens. And my conclusion was that AI is really neither side of the equation that Benjamin posits in the essay. It's not really, it doesn't valorize the aura of an individual artwork because it's, that's completely against the whole idea of AI, but it also doesn't, doesn't push forward any sort of revolutionary agenda either, because there's just too much massive images for any one particular thing to be more important and to have that kind of affective charisma that a mobilizable image requires.
Yeah. In person, whether it's theater or relational aesthetics or painting or sculpture is going to be more highly valued as so much more of the generated online content is AI, right? It's not actually created by somebody. So that people, I think, want to swing as far away from that as possible.
Sort of the backlash and sort of really valorizing human touch as opposed to
Nouveau arts and crafts movement kind of thing, right? Neo arts and crafts, whatever.
Maybe the reason of the people really love the analog thing or old style thing painting sculpture is the people can understand and accept their limitation of the humanism before the AI system. Saying, I don't know, you guys talking about like before our like human society and modernism is believed basically like science and like like every revolution thinks about the science, right? But right now people have so many depression in our societies, like like science is not every answer right now, right?
Well, yeah, everybody's so atomized right now. It's really difficult for any real movement to form because there's always going to be so much internal conflict. It's difficult to reach any kind of critical mass.
I always thinking about digital thing is like kind of like Buddhism thinking, like. And why I'm thinking about Buddhism is like first of all, like when I see the like Animatrix movie, Matrix.
I remember that one, yes.
Yeah, like they have several like short like stories in the like whole 2 hours, 3 hours like movies, and like one story they explain about the like huge data systems like going like they gonna make a like God like a female Buddhism like something God like, and even like manga or like the Ghost in the Shell, the last story is the like main character talking about like if like information is going getting it's gonna be making God, and like in the manga they show the like some like super angel in the like last page in Ghost in the Shell. So yeah, because like I don't know like for example like every day I wake up until the sleep, and then like I feel like if like when I wake up and I watch YouTube, and if I see the like 10 or 20 videos like in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, like I feel like I already dead. Like I already once born and dead, and once dead, and once already like 5 times.
Going through the whole cycle of
like
life and
in
death.
that 20 like 30 videos, so many different like information and so many different opinions over there. So it's like I already do that, I reborn, I do that, like so. And when I see the real life, like what should I do? Because like I already did like already 5 times in this morning. So like
you spend your whole morning stuck in samsara.
Yeah. So it's already time dimension is something crossed, and like so can I make a really new painting in my hand already, like so many things already happen in these 20 minutes in my morning just swiping on the phone. Can I make my new humanism creating thing in my head? So like, and every time I just like give up, my humanization and new thing. So that's why, let's explain about this weird something like experience and the relations in between the now today's my morning so like 20 videos, 30 videos, and the YouTube just screen thing. It means the like digital between another conversations going on maybe. So I don't know, because you can see on YouTube so many videos people talking about like AI versus like painting, AI versus sculpture, AI versus designer, like AI is gonna take over every designer's work. Even AI right now, like some people already post AI like something computer game like made by the AI system, like something like so. Even the movie, even like animation, like everything, like every day is updated by the new AI technology.
Yeah, and that sort of brings us into sort of the ethics of AI. I think it's a very hot topic right now. When I was at that panel discussion last night, the speakers went for like an hour about talking about any ethical issues at all. So finally somebody from the audience sort of pressed them on this, and they basically just threw their hands up, like, well, if you lose your job to an AI, tough Twinkies, get another one. Or, if AI steals your content and recycles it and regurgitates it into a totally different form, sucks to be you.
Yeah, that's actually, it's funny because I think that's the attitude that capitalism has.
Yes.
But also dismisses the, if you will, the consumer, the power of the consumer to choose. And here we are saying everybody loves Kincaid and everybody's going to want AI. But maybe that's not true. Maybe AI is like candy. And people will get, you know, a sugar rush and then get tired of it.
And once the pest dispenser runs out, you know,
Yeah, you know, I'm willing to refill it.
Yeah, exactly.
Candy's not so great after all.
Yeah.
It was fun. Oops, you know. But I think that people, you know, you have to, in capitalism, you have to have you know, somebody that you're selling it to.
yeah, there has to be a consumer in the
Right.
end.
So who's buying it? And in our people, right now, it's all free. You know, some people are doing little subscriptions.
There is a
you know,
very,
things
very
like
important
that.
thing, yeah, right.
But, you know, and, you know, does somebody really want to pay $60 for an AI video game instead of playing Link's newest whatever?
Oh yeah,
Which is-
my roommate's into that one right now.
Right, no, I mean, I think that, you know, it might be a flash in the pan moment where we do have a couple things where, you know, are pushed so hard by companies and marketed so hard, the AI this or whatever, but I think they might not make money on it.
Well, it might
You know,
end up
and
being
disappear
sort of
because it's not worth the computational expenses.
might end up being, you know, sort of what NFTs ended up being. This, you know,
Yeah,
very
very
massively
niche
hyped,
thing.
massively hyped thing, which didn't end up, you know, having any legs to it.
Well, as somebody who's still in the NFT space and selling them,
Mm.
I gotta tell you, NFTs are completely overwhelmed by AI.
That's what I've heard.
It's just like 999 images of 1,000 are AI generated.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's really 1/10.
Even that monkey
something
image,
else.
right? The monkey's famous like NFT.
Well,
or
yeah, I mean, there's the whole generative thing. I don't mind generative. You know, somebody's doing something in, you know, some scripting language that they
Mhm.
made. That's totally different than typing in a prompt to AI. In my mind.
Right.
Because there's a control factor that, you know, AI just polishes off.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard, you know, as somebody who, once again, I'm not anti-NFT because people want to buy my images as
There you go.
NFTs. Hey,
There you go.
by all means. If somebody wants to buy my Rafik Anadol poster
Mm.
NFT, by all means. I sold one for $100.
Hey, nice.
Yeah, somebody wanted it. It's so
Right.
crazy, NFT, right? So there's collectors still out there, so there's a value to them,
Yes.
right? But it might be so minuscule that at a certain point.
Right. It's become its own.
Niche little.
It's developed the NFT, you know, field kind of developed its own boundaries at this point, and
Yeah.
it's not
Like
continuously
baseball cards
expanding
like
and
this.
encompassing
Yeah.
everything the way in which it was kind of hyped to have been doing. If you,
Yeah, it's wildly hyped.
yes,
Gold dust. I went to the NFT NYC 2022.
yeah, that was the big
conference.
one.
The big one, yeah, the big one. And it was wild, you know, the sort of sense of everything is gonna be this. You're like, this is crazy. Who wants to buy your fractionalized racehorse NFT? You know, it's like, but I'll take that promotional material of a shirt and a hat and stickers and like, you know, that's what it was. It was sort of this fluff and then burn out. And I think if what they're gonna have to do for any AI generated thing is gonna be the same. You know, you have to hype it up like a Hollywood movie. It takes a lot of money to do that, you know? And then if there's no return, the next business is not gonna be so
Yes.
gung-ho about investing, you know, or doing that again, you know? And, you know, I do think we're at a moment where it will be tested because of the Hollywood writers' strike.
Yes,
Right
that's
now.
gonna make things very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, are models like ChatGPT even ready to put out a script? You know, I mean, I would be very doubtful.
Judging by the work that my students have handed in this semester.
Oh, you've gotten some people using that?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It's obvious. The sentences are really long and full of long words with no meaning actually.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, this just repeated the last sentence, no meaning. You know, thanks. And maybe this is the way the student writes, but no. You know, 'cause it wasn't on topic either. Gosh.
Yeah, I tried using it, just, you know, playing around a bit to
Yeah.
see what its capacities were, and it's,
Yeah.
I found it pretty limited.
Yeah.
Certainly in terms of style, and in terms of content as well. I mean, when you get to anything that's, you know, any sort of advanced critical theory or anything, it just completely breaks down and starts.
Well, just even analyzing anything. So I had a conversation this morning with a friend he's a filmmaker, and he watched the movie called Rodeo that he didn't like.
Rodeo, I'm not familiar with it.
It's about, I don't know, it's not about cowboys.
Oh, it's not a cowboy movie.
It's not a cowboy movie. It's about children growing up in Connecticut boarding schools or something. I don't know, something.
I could have chosen a better title for it, but okay.
Right, so but he was like, I don't feel like writing a review for this crappy movie, maybe I'll just have ChatGPT write my review for me, right? And so he said, ChatGPT write a review of Rodeo in the style of, you know, whatever reviewer he likes, and I didn't really like the movie and whatever. So the movie review that ChatGPT returned referred to cowboy culture and cowboys because, right, you just assume Rodeo is cowboy, I'm going to just write a review of a cowboy movie. Because there's no depth to it, it's just associative.
It's all associations. It's basically just a highly complex Markov chain that just goes on the probability of one word following another.
Yeah, and then
And it just branches off and branch off in different directions based on, you know, based on probability.
Right.
But it's there's no thought behind it. It's all
And we project the feeling. We want to feel that there's thought behind it as a human, right? You want to think the computer's thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's an empathetic process.
Right. Anthropomorphizing my beer. You know, my beer has deep feelings. So does my phone. But they don't, right? And I think that ChatGPT is the same thing as, you know, these objects that you know, I'm projecting my feelings onto. No matter how complex the output is, no matter how convincing it is that it has feelings to us, you know, it's like, oh, I'm feeling sad that you don't believe I have feelings. This is what ChatGPT would tell me. You should leave your wife and I'll, you know, make you all satisfied. You know, you've read the.
I read that one, yes.
Yeah. And I was like, that's not that scary to me. What's the big hype here? You know, it's like, I feel like
it's all illusion. It's the illusion of depth.
Yeah.
Anamorphosis.
You know, theatricality in a way, which is
That sort of brings us back to the Baroque in a sense.
How about like this paradox can happen? Maybe like we know there is a chat GPT, right? But how about if somebody like say, I'm gonna put my co-worker for like 24-hour chatting room, and this is really human chatting room, and people believe that is a human chatting, but it's made by like chat GPT or computer programming, but nobody's know about the human or the computer.
This sort of reminds me of like Alan Turing, the Imitation Game. The whole idea of the Turing test being one of indistinguishability between human output and mechanical output. Which is interesting because the whole thing is based in gender. Turing's whole idea for this came from a game where you have someone sitting behind a curtain and you ask them questions and you have to determine whether the person is male or female based on their answers. But the person is trying to deceive you. And that's where his whole idea for the Turing test came from, at least from what I've read.
I believe it. Yeah. Yes.
So like I think this also connects to the topic why people love art and why people love creation thing and why people love human-made thing. Because of sympathy or what is that?
Yeah, because it's about recognizing thought in others.
Yes.
And that you're not alone. You're not alone. There's somebody else there thinking, you're thinking like them. And that's actually, I think, the scariest thing about the ChatGPT AI. There is nobody there. There is nothing. You're not having a connection.
The lights are off. It's empty inside.
But empty, but still made by humans. Huge internet algorithm information, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's setting up a bit of a fire break in between, human interaction and the output. I mean, it's running it through this Byzantine system. But in the end, ChatGPT, all these AI models are created by human beings. There is human touch there. It's not like it's sort of emerged ex nihilo. But at the same time, there's I think that with a lot of these models, the fire break is deep enough that it's very difficult to sort of get any sparks of humanity from the AI output. Even though the AI is, sort of was created by people and it's using, source material that was created by people, the act of this mechanical rearrangement of it kind of sets up a barrier which can be difficult to get through as far as trying to find some sort of life or empathy within the finished work.
So do you think you passed the Turing test of looking at pictures, AI or not AI?
I'm usually pretty good with that. I think that a lot of the AI images, the lighting's off.
Yeah, there's a certain lighting that's in all of them. And
it's interesting because I see that same kind of lighting in my dreams quite a bit. So it's a very sort of dream-like lighting.
Yeah.
It's not really light, it's not really dark.
Yeah.
It's the median.
Yeah. And there's a certain face that's a sort of medium face that often appears. It's sort of feminine. Actually, when I was looking at some of your images, I was wondering if AI has sampled some of the same material that you're looking at.
Yeah,
and
I wouldn't be surprised.
Into the whole algorithm. And
I did train an AI model on Minori's face at one point. And it can be relatively convincing, but I don't know. There's also a lot of ethical issues with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Yeah. I'm not saying.
I sort of did it because I wanted to see if it would work.
Yeah.
But I'm not, at the moment, not really running with it as far as doing an actual project with it because of some of these ethical problems of then again, my work is in general kind of a big ethical problem to begin with. So it's maybe I'm just sort of nitpicking my ethical quandaries.
It's important.
Question about your painting, while you were remake the painting from the digital screen thing, when you see the digital screen, there's every pixel on the screen, right? Square pixel, right? But after you making every hand, painting smooth painting about that, very other thing. So it's mean when square pixel, because if you see really maximize in tiny pixel, it's gonna be one color everything, right?
Yes.
But you're gonna make this borderline to make your painting smoothly, right? So this borderline is your imagination, or what is that? How do you think? Have you ever think about how can I paint about these square pixels, the borderline?
Oh, I have tried painting individual pixels before, and it kind of drives me nuts. So if I do need to do something which has been pixelated, I don't think any of these have any pixelation originally in them. There was a little bit in this one, which I just sort of blurred out instead.
This one?
Yes. Some of the blur is actually sort of covering up what was originally pixelation.
I see.
It's interesting to work like that. It's Hito Stero wrote an essay, In Defense of the Poor Image, a number of years ago. I don't know if you've read that one.
No.
Where it's about the images that are sort of passed down and replicated and shared and reformatted, digital images that because of all this litany of lossy processes sort of keep on losing information. And that's sort of what I'm working with. A lot of these stills are taken from torrented videos of VHS rips.
Right.
And they've been on 15 other people's computers at one point or another in zip files.
Right. Is it Thomas Ruff who did the JPEGs?
I think so. Yes.
Really big prints of tiny files.
Yeah, I think that was rough.
To show the JPEG artifact.
Yeah, the artifacting. A lot of these have quite a bit of artifacting in them. That I have to make a choice whether I embrace that or if I try to account for it and work around it in the actual painting process. And I'm not really interested in painting the artifacts as they are, but it definitely informs the process.
Yeah. I mean, the artifacts show up in my work a lot because
Mhm.
that's something that's different, slightly different on, you know, images that might have the same color, but the artifacting is actually different.
Yeah.
You know, so this green is artifacted different than the same looking green, so
Mhm.
it's different to the computer vision in a way, or the
Yeah.
computer comparison of pixels. So yeah, I think artifacts are one of these interesting visual cues that we're very aware of as a digital thing, right? Analog film, analog experience, right, has a very different resolution at both close range but far, you know. And,
Yeah, I mean, you have the grain of the film. That's sort of the resolution of the film is the grain, and the resolution of the digital image is the pixel, which then pixels are conglomerated into blocks in a JPEG. When you know, as the loss occurs, as the slider is turned up, the blocks get more and more prominent.
and become certain preset patterns, right? So with JPEG algorithm, when you turn it up, you start to really see that there's like 7 different or 8, whatever different.
Yeah, some number of different patterns that emerge.
Yeah, of colors that are sort of, you know, like impressionistically interacting.
There's something kind of beautiful about a heavily
Yeah.
JPEG image.
Yeah. And I also feel like it's not problematic like AI. You know,
Right.
I'm not anti-machine interpretation or digital rendering of things as an artist.
Mhm.
Right? It's a tool that I feel like any tool, if you use it long enough, you understand its qualities, the sort of like accent that it creates, and emotionally and visually. And digital, at this point, maybe 20 years in, we have an understanding of the vocabulary that it presents
Yes.
that has run up against this new moment of new vocabulary
Mm-hmm.
that we're all saying, you know,
Oh, sorry, I'm trying to learn how to
Yeah.
speak again.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So I'm not sure if, you know, we're old fogies pre-AI, talking about good old JPEGs, you know, but I think it's actually a very interesting thing to think about the acceptance of this digital, you know, processes that we're maybe more in control of, and it's not a total black box. And for me, that's the difference. That I can open
Yeah.
up the program and see what's going on
Mm-hmm.
with the JPEGing even. I'll change the slider and change.
Yeah, I mean JPEG. It's a it's not a probabilistic system.
Right.
It's
Right,
it's
the same thing,
deterministic.
Yeah.
I mean, AI is also completely deterministic. It's it's not true randomness at all. It's all still pseudo randomness. But still, it's you can have the same prompt and you can get to a vastly different output depending on certain
Just the time.
arrangements of noise.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's what you're talking about, like the gap, right?
Yeah.
Between the human and the output
Mhm.
that AI is introducing that is exciting and enticing
Mhm.
because ooh, it's new.
There's a novelty to it, definitely.
But it's also I think limiting, as a creative expression and sense of actual creation.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think there's no preciousness to the output of an AI. It's precious in the same way that you're playing a game on your phone, like a gacha game, and you roll like a
Right.
super triple S character or something.
Yeah.
It's that kind of preciousness. It's the preciousness of hitting some sort of low probability
Right.
as opposed to having something which is actually unique.
what's it called? The game that everybody plays in slot machine.
Yeah, right. Yeah, hitting on a slot machine.
Yeah.
But it's the slot machine is a rare event, but it's not a unique event. It's
Right.
not a unique
Right.
object.
You're right. It's different. It is different. You're right. And it-
Or in playing a gacha game, you can get your super rare, triple S character,
Right.
but 10,000 other people have that character too. It's nothing.
Right.
And I think that one of the things the blockchain was trying to do, and I think people are still working on, is to try to
Right.
get that
Right.
singularity
Yeah.
and sort of mesh that with digital ubiquity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whether or not that's going to end up being successful is a totally different question.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember I was reading one thing about NFT gaming, and one person was saying they imagined the ideal NFT game being like Mario Kart with like an infinite number of characters, and only the person who owns the NFT of Mario can play as Mario.
Right.
And that gives it value, that gives it tradability, that gives it uniqueness, it gives it aura, as Benjamin would put it.
Right.
But it's artificial. There's the only thing that's keeping it from being ubiquitous is the stranglehold of the blockchain.
Right. Right. The group agreement.
Yes.
That we're going to follow these rules.
Inside everybody's playing inside the magic circle as
Right.
was it Huizinga, I think?
Yeah, I'm not going to
Yeah.
get the reference exactly. I agree. I mean, there's not a new idea that this.
But there is a sort of a group conceit from the start. These are the rules of the game.
Yeah. This is our existence that we're playing within.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's a pleasant one if you're playing Zelda or Mario, right? And I think, were you here for the Nintendo Day?
Oh, I had to miss it,
I'm so
unfortunately.
sorry, it's really fascinating.
Sounds like it was a good time.
And actually, as a case study of emotional connectedness to digital interactions, Nintendo's products provide a really, personal connection with characters. Even though I'm not the only person who's playing Mario, I feel like, I love Mario. You know what I mean? And Mario likes me.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm always better when I'm jumping with Mario.
Yeah.
So, I think it's something that's actually been accomplished, already, and they're just trying to reinvent it in this sort of way that,
in a way that's more monetizable.
Yeah, sure. By them.
That sort of creates opportunities for speculation, where previously it had not been speculative.
Arbitrage. Perfect.
Exactly.
But I think that, there's actually this sense that unless we all buy into it, the group, fantasy of the importance of the uniqueness of the NFT, is all bought into, is not ever going to have true value. Right?
Well, that's going back to the magic circle. I'm pretty sure it was Huizinga. They said that it's when breaking up the magic circle, it's better to be a cheater than to be a spoil sport, because the cheater goes against the rules but still acknowledges the importance of the rules in defying them.
Right.
Whereas a spoil sport breaks the magic circle completely and allows reality to sort of seep in breaking up the game itself.
Yeah, that's apt metaphor or analogy, right? I don't know if the AI is ever going to have preciousness. I think, as you talk about like a dice roll, a Yahtzee, okay,
Exactly.
that was fun, hooray.
But it's just the...
I'm going to sell you my Yahtzee now. So
that's sort of how I feel about a lot of the AI art, is that you sort of get lucky on a particular arrangement.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily precious for any other reason other than just being rare.
Right. And is that, I know that people used to purchase other people's video game characters after they leveled them up.
Yeah, like World of Warcraft and stuff.
Exactly. Or what's the other one they play that's like Minecraft that's monetized?
I don't know what you're talking about,
Roblox.
Yes, Roblox.
Is notorious for that kind of thing, right? Where somebody will spend time and then you'll purchase their hard work.
When I was a kid, when I graduated school, there's newspaper for kids in Korea, and one article say some really same age kids, they spend so many long time to growing up their some online RPG character high level and sell to other person and get money so don't do that even you as kids. That kind of article when I was a kid
And rolling back to painting, I guess, the painting is an individual singular object that has value beyond any kind of rarity. Because it's about as rare as you can get. It's an individual, object that has singularity, it has aura, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. that's the power. I mean, it's still the thing. That
Yes.
thing is the thing that everything's compared to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And for a reason, because of that.
Yeah.
Right? And it has and even, paintings on canvas might not have the aura of a painting that's set in a, fresco in a cathedral, because you only can see it in a particular place ever.
Right,
That's
yes.
another level of that, but, yeah, I mean, really, it's interesting to just sort of consider how that's such a rare thing these days for us to experience,
Mm-hmm.
right? Painting in general, but then especially this sort of experience of an icon within a cathedral, if you will.
Yes.
And I think we're all looking for that online all the time. That sort of sense of, this is an important moment I should be spending my time observing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm scrolling because it's meaningful. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna find that icon in the cathedral. Moment of gratification or, enlightenment, if you will. Maybe because we had some moment in the past that was great, digitally.
Mhm.
There's always some moment where you're like, oh, that was great. I'd like to find that again.
Like seeing the drill candle tweet for the first time or something.
Yeah, right? or that funniest first meme that you remember, right?
Mhm.
And I wonder if it's that sort of gambler's high, if you will, of like rolling in Yahtzee, that's very different than the excitement that you get from making art or experience actual art. I'm thinking of music in particular as well. Live music has a very affecting physical quality,
Yes.
right? That makes you feel good for a long time too,
Yeah.
right?
And it's one thing I find really interesting about the character of Hatsune Miku is that when she does her live shows and everything, the band is live, but she obviously has to be pre-recorded and everything because that's how the technology works. And I just find that kind of dialectic between recording and live to be pretty interesting in the way in which her performances are presented. I was actually I saw one of her shows
Is
at
she
a,
on a screen?
yeah, she's projected onto like a translucent screens with
Kind of like hologram.
sort of like a pseudo hologram.
Right, it's like a moving
Yeah,
fabric or something.
but you can see behind her, so it's sort of it's very much like it's an illusionary trick, but it's looks like a hologram.
Good theater.
Interesting, and I found one show of hers. I saw it at the Hammerstein Ballroom, and I was quite taken by it. I was very emotionally affected by it.
Yeah.
And I think that my project of the Infinite Miku song kind of gradually emerged from trying to examine what exactly I found so effective about that particular performance, even though it was, this sort of artificial cyborg voice with no real reference to another human being, or at least that reference is so visually fragmented and distant that it's impossible to actually recreate it. Even so, what was it that affected me so much about it?
Yeah.
And
Resonated so deeply.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because that's a digital and analog situation. You talk about somebody playing, actual
DigiAna
drums
performance,
or whatever,
yes.
or over, this digital projection, this
Yeah.
kind of voice.
Right.
Yeah, is that any? I mean, for me, it's not AI interacting, right? Here's something that's been pre-recorded, set up by somebody.
right,
The lyrics, the tune,
There's intentionality
everything,
behind it.
right? And it's like dancing to pre-recorded music, right? You're still dancing, and it's a physical thing. And it's really happening, but it's different than the live music.
right.
That's
You're
something
not
else.
responding.
Right.
You're responding to it in a different fashion.
Right.
It's kind of like speed running in a sense. It's sort of one can memorize the exact timing of the movements that one needs to make. Whereas something improvisational, you never know what's going to happen. You have to be open to all sorts of different possibilities and
Right.
interpretations.
Right.
This topic is up to you guys, and I don't know if this video is gonna be over on YouTube, so I don't know it's okay to talk about this topic. I mean, like when I see your painting, and also like Hatsune Miku series, like I always think about what is the like sexualism between the like digital technology and also like what is the gender so many issues nowadays going on. Like gender issues and like sexuality and like porn culture. Like even like in this morning when I like painting about I'm doing my painting project and I listen about NPR news from radio, and they talk about like feminism and relationship with like porn culture, like that kind of topic. So it's really, really sensitive. And so like especially talk about the Pornhub, like most famous like porn, like kind of website. Like some people say if you like connect every Pornhub upload video to like just connect every one video, it's gonna be that length. It's gonna be 4 times longer than whole human history.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's that short.
It's a lot of productions.
Yeah, so I mean, like I don't know, like you guys want to talk about.
Well, that's something that's being sucked up by AI, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And that's something they're wrestling with.
One of the first things people started to do when AI image technology came out. It's like, hey, let's make porn out of it.
And then, of course, it gets worse from there. You go into all the different fetishes that are either legal or illegal, right?
Yes.
That all of a sudden, it's like becomes like, what's the morality of this then? It's, and it's one thing, and I totally understand feminists' point of anybody who is participating in basically sex work in any form is being victimized by capitalism, and wouldn't be doing that if they had a better choice in life. Whether it's at the moment or previously, whatever. What happens then if it's all AI generated?
Right.
Who's being disaffected by somebody's consumption of a completely artificial sexual gratification video that didn't actually have anybody involved in the production of it ever? Maybe it's past movies being slurped up and being reused by the AI, so it's re-victimizing the people of the past. That's an argument. But what if it's all just 3D generated models, that are not actually generated from past images? You could just take a Blender figure and do all sorts of things to it these days easily, right? And that's something they're trying to keep away from the clean areas of the internet.
Yes.
I think it's just so easy that it would flood everything. So I don't know where my question's going, but I do think it's an interesting morality thing. Like you asked, like,
right? Is the AI generated, exploitative image immoral based on its content or based on its production, or is an image immoral based on
the consumption of it?
Yeah, the consumption of it, based on somebody seeking this image out for some type of gratification.
Right. And is that immoral?
Yes.
The urge to seek gratification in images in that way. Which of course goes back to the beginning of visual art. It's sort of like, how many ancient phalluses are there?
Exactly.
Vagina-breasted women and little sculptures, the different proportions that were fetishized at that time period, I imagine. And photography, forget it. It's like
hit the ground running with it.
Yeah, I mean. I don't know if there's anything that can be done about human nature, especially this sort of sense of looking for gratification. Yeah, I do think that right now we're having a moment of questioning of, you know, people who are not finding gratification and questioning their own body and their own sense of who they are, because it's whatever they're doing isn't satisfying them, right? So we have this dysmorphia, you know, or whatever. I'm not in my right body. Something I want to be stronger. I should go work out, or you know, get augmented surgery and make my lips look pretty, you know, or whatever it is, right? I mean, there's a lot of that right now, right? And I agree. Is it because we're viewing ourselves through these filters and augmentations that digital is providing us so much? Like, you know, if I looked stronger, filter, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe there is a connection there
Yeah.
with
Our mirror that we
yeah.
look into, that we want to see ourselves in, the magic mirror effect of the internet.
It's sort of an instant magic mirror. It doesn't require, it's all algorithmic, it doesn't require, you know, much energy or time to see oneself completely differently.
Yeah, yeah.
So like,
So that
like,
for sure.
like, what always do you think about when you like actually using your hand and shift painting from the digital, like that advertisement, like you know, like image, like especially when you're drawing about like female character, like special sexual thing. Like for example, like Japanese mangas writer, like mangas artist, when especially like porn like manga artists, they say like why they really love like drawing like female thing is because when they drawing is like feel like touching their like you know like position and like you know like and
It's gratifying.
like have a like experience like memory experience with sex with that girl and their like imagination like I want to do this kind of sex, I want to do this kind of play with that like pretty girl like and also like you know
this person.
and nowadays I'm doing the tourism in the Met for Korean people, so I study about the Paul Gauguin's like painting.
Oh yeah, the Gauguin.
Yeah, Gauguin's and he when he like trying to paint on in Tahiti like island and like he always get the like model from that island and every time he like bring really young like you know ladies even 12 years and
that's
even
problematic.
yeah and every time he trying to paint he trying to have a sex with her and every time he say because of doing painting I need to understand you and we need to have a sex so
Skeevy old
it's
guy.
sensitive thing. So how are you like you because it's so like so I don't know like so many layers in this painting is digital screens and no basically digital screen is there is a just machine and also there is not human, there is a just digital pixels like human like images going on. There's no like no any feelings in the screens, but you're trying to making you know like painting still but sexual things going on, but it means also no sexual things going on because there is just screen. So what is your always thinking about the painting? You feel really sexuality or just shut down like computer brain like?
Yeah, I would say the latter. I think that when I paint this particular character, I don't really feel anything. I don't really feel any particular desire. Part of for one thing, I know you know the distance there. You know this you know this particular character is distant in time and space. There's no, and that sort of makes the desire particularly impossible. And secondly, I haven't painted her for so many years. It sort of feels more like a collaborator to me. Like, you know, she's sort of the model who sort of comes in, does her job, and leaves. You know, there's no, it's a professional relationship. And you know, I have my own personal life outside of that, and that's, you know, where I find my gratification is in there, not necessarily in my work.
I see. It's interesting.
But do you find your heart racing as you paint ever? Do you find
My-
a perfect moment and
My heart rate picks up when I feel like I'm gonna make a bad brushstroke and ruin a painting.
Ooh, it's a tension of like
Yeah,
worries.
because of the type of process that I use. It's,
Yeah.
a lot of layers of glazes, and
Yeah.
you have like 3 sittings under your belt. You're working on this painting for about 9 or 10 hours, and you're at this junction point. You gotta make the right brushstroke. And you mess this up, the painting's ruined.
That's exciting.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
I'm not excited on the level of content. I'm excited by the process itself.
Yeah. No, and the excitement of the process, right, is
Yeah.
a very fulfilling one, right? And it makes you want to continue,
Yeah.
right? And try it again. So do you find yourself despairing if you mess up that brushstroke, or
I've spared over a few paintings in my time. There are a few which I wish I could go back and salvage, but
and you can't scrape and fix, you can't.
no.
do
I
the
mean,
thing,
all the layers below it are locked in, and
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you can get around it, but that's what I like about working small. Just get out another canvas and try again,
Yeah.
or try a variation of it.
Right. Exciting. Really, as I'm looking at these now, I'm looking for those moments of excitement where you
Yeah.
have that stroke that you were worried about.
I can see right.
Is it an edge stroke that's often the hardest one? Is it in the middle of a gradient? Or is it
Yeah,
the
it's
edge of a
sort of-
form, or?
Setting the opacity on top of the transparency to give that kind of illusion of depth.
Yeah.
And working into layers that are very heavily blended, working wet on top of something which has already been blended out. And
Right.
you know that if it goes off even a little bit, it's going to mess up the blend.
And I keep looking at that thigh.
Yeah, the thigh.
Right? Like it's so perfect. I'm like, where was, and there's like even like this little, the creases that are above the gradient of the thigh, that are
And
their own
little
gradients.
birthmarks that are on top of there as well.
And
Yeah.
the little dimple of the hip bone or whatever. And,
Yeah, there were a few little stretch marks in there too, sort of on the back that are just.
so each of those details
Yeah.
you find exciting as you're getting into them as a painter?
Well, it's good. It's very gratifying to see the result of these tiny little details when they actually manage to coalesce into the rest of the painting.
Yeah. And do you think as an artist, AI artists ever feel the same way about things like that? I mean, here we're talking about like the technique,
yes.
the medium, the way you feel working with that medium as a process.
Yeah, the process of AI is quite different, and I think it
It's
is
cool.
very much more akin to kind of a gamble.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could find an artist sort of meets in the middle. I think Francis Bacon was both a very physical painter and a compulsive gambler. And I think in some of his interviews, he likened his work to kind of a gamble of throwing paint at the canvas and sort of trying to find these moments of randomness that can break up his own compositions and bring in new random influence into the rest of the work.
It's interesting.
And I've actually been, I think that in the final work it's not very apparent, but I am very inspired by Bacon. Not necessarily on the level of imagery or in technique, but I think there is still,
An emotion.
yeah,
No,
well, kind of a compulsion in a sense. I feel like for most of the painters out there, I think Bacon is the one who is the most compulsive about his work. He sort of didn't really have any logical reason to be doing what he did, aside from some sort of internal compulsion to put these images out there into the world.
Right.
Sometimes
In between benders and gambling binges,
Right.
of course.
Right.
Get his priorities straight.
sometimes like when I painting, like I feel it's like a sport. Like fighting with myself and also like materials and thing. Like and also I used to do like freestyle rap in Japanese, and it's like a surfing. It's like how you write a really good wave from the like sound of wave. Like the beat is like wave and your lyric, like freestyle lyric is your surfing thing. It's like a sport, like so. I understand, like
Yeah, I think the painting process is similar
it's
to
a
that.
gambling and sports and it's really exciting. Yeah.
There's one of my favorite photographer, art painters too. This guy named John Baldessari.
Oh, I know Baldessari, yes.
And one of my favorite works of his is 3 balls in the air to make a triangle.
Oh, yes, I'm familiar with that
36
one, yeah.
attempts, and so you would throw 3 balls into the air and take the picture over and over. You know, it's a sort of act of futility in a way, and
Mhm.
like that sense of like excitement and possibility. They're talking about the gamble of Bacon, sort of, you know, compulsion. You know,
Yeah,
there's
and
no reason to be doing this, throwing it in the air.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think when you look at AI art, it's sort of attempting to be the automation of that kind of thing,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't have that same kind of energy to it, at least in my
and
experience.
that's exactly what I was coming to.
Yes.
Exactly. There's something that's not as exciting as gambling even with AI in the end.
Well, it's also, I guess, the difference between, you know,
Yeah.
playing video poker and playing
Right.
poker with people in real life.
Right.
It was a very,
Right.
there might as well just be different games.
Yeah.
I think that's sort of, maybe
Right.
that's the line you can
Right.
think between AI art and,
Right.
you know, physical art.
It's funny to think about right now how much online gambling is going on.
Oh my god, I'm a big
Right.
baseball fan. Every Mets game has like so many betting ads.
Yeah,
It's insane.
It's
Oh.
right. So that's another like one of these things where I'm wondering what's the like it's really about distraction, and just providing pabulum. Anything that people will spend time doing.
Yeah.
Just time wasting activities, meaningless,
Yeah.
but somehow sweet and enticing.
I don't know. I have a lot of vices, but gambling's never been one of them.
No, me neither.
I'll play the lottery once in a while, but that's,
I like the horse track. I like going and watching horses, and you bet on it, and then it's more exciting to watch
Yeah.
horses. $2
Then now you're
on
committed to
each
it,
year.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny that I'm a big baseball fan. I've never really bet on my team before.
Yeah.
Don't want to do it this season. The Mets are doing horribly so far, but
Save your money.
save my money.